Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for the 4 o'clock show. We were here earlier this morning with developer Jason Fain after last night's Ordinance Committee meeting at the Providence City Council. You can see that on golocalprov.com. But as we do most Tuesday afternoons at 4 p.m., we check in with Jennifer Lawless-Down at the University of Virginia. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well up here. Sun's coming out in downtown Providence after having a tornado warning. You can read about the National Weather Service's warning that was in effect until 4 on GoLocal Prov. But now it's sunny. A lot of focus on national but international politics right now and the relations to the current administration. Now let's talk a little bit about where things are at with the investigation into the disappearance and death of Jamal Khashoggi, and where things stand with Saudi Arabia, the U.S., and Turkey.
In the last 24 hours or so, it seems like Turkey has superseded the United States in being the most outraged regarding the death. And so over the weekend, we saw members of Congress say that it was important to get to the bottom of this. We even saw Donald Trump in the last few days start to acknowledge that the Saudi story seemed a little bit strange and that it was unacceptable and that they were going to be investigating more. But just recently, we've now heard that Turkey has basically said, look, you killed somebody on the wrong country's soil, and it's not acceptable, even though it was at a diplomatic embassy, which means that Turkey doesn't technically have jurisdiction. The Turkish government is already trying to investigate ways to work with the global community to figure out how to engage in investigations when things like this happen, because the Saudis basically delayed for almost 2 weeks before any sort of investigation could take place.
And what we saw from the Saudis, their explanation was that a fight had occurred after Khashoggi had entered the embassy. Now, we did see the president basically say, not really buying that that explanation. Are you surprised that the president countered what the Saudis had come with, especially right after the incident? He seemed rather aligned with allowing them to dictate the reaction.
I think a couple of things happened. The first was he saw that his view was completely out of sync, not only with liberals and Democrats, but even with members of his own party. The second thing that happened was the fistfight story just on its face doesn't make any sense for 2 reasons. The first is that there's no way that Khashoggi could have put up such a fight given that he would be fighting with 12 other people. They wouldn't have had to kill him in order to suppress him or contain him or do whatever it was they were attempting to do. The second factor is that the Saudis had footage of a body double leaving the embassy disguised as Khashoggi, and that was what their story had been up until this point. And so that means that this seems like it was just sort of a last-minute attempt to admit that they murdered him, and this seemed like a plausible, to them at least, story to explain why.
And what do we think we see as repercussions now moving forward, as Turkey has indicated they're going to be much more involved in trying to investigate what transpired at the embassy? We've seen now the president react as well. What do you envision moving forward?
Well, one of the things that I think we can count on is that if the president doesn't act, and if the president doesn't do something where, if not sanctions, there are real consequences to this behavior, Congress will act. And it wouldn't be the first time Congress acted when the president wouldn't act when it came to Russian sanctions as well. The other thing that's important to keep in mind here is that it's sort of ironic that Turkey is launching this investigation because they've actually had one of the worst records in terms of jailing and restraining journalists globally. So, you know, this is one of those situations where the United States could have obviously taken a strong leadership role, opted not to, now seems to be getting on board, but they're not going to be, Donald Trump is not going to be seen as the person who really spearheaded an investigation.
Speaking of international relations, a lot of the time and attention in national media is currently placed on the thousands of people now in Mexico heading towards the U.S. border. Talk with us a little bit about sort of the inside the Beltway take. It seems both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are trying to play this to their advantage.
The Republicans are certainly trying to play it to their advantage. They are discussing this caravan as though it's perfectly timed for the midterm elections. And as though the people who are trying to get through Mexico and ultimately cross the border are not doing it for any reason other than to violate immigration law, right? The Republicans are not in any way acknowledging that some of these people are seeking asylum, that many of them are coming from very, very dangerous places and circumstances. The Republicans are also trying to politicize this, not only because it's consistent with their immigration policies, but they're misleading. They're saying that there are Middle Easterners. They're saying that there are suspected terrorists among these people trying to cross the border. And as a result, that fear mongering, they hope, will allow people to say, you know what, this is a dangerous time. We're going to continue to elect our incumbents because we feel safer when we know what the government looks like. The Democrats, on the other hand, are calling the Republicans bluff. They hope it's a bluff. And they're saying that this is just one more example of the Republicans trying to scare people and use these scare tactics in a discriminatory way. So we'll see what's going on. But Republican candidates across the country, both for the Senate and the House of Representatives, have already begun running ads and using this kind of language to get voters out to the polls in these final 2 weeks.
And let's talk about if and when this does reach the U.S. border and the role that the president could potentially play. Now, as you said, he has insinuated that there might be some folks who might not be there for the pure purposes of escaping some hardships. But if there are, in fact, those individuals who have bona fide cases for asylum, do you think we'll see a really big issue come to a head in the way that the U.S. reacts to who they let in and how? Or is there a possibility that the president, as he's been saying, could shut the border down completely?
I think a lot depends on the timing. A lot depends on when they get there. And a lot depends on if they arrive after the election, whether the Republicans took back control of the House and whether the Republicans gained seats in the Senate. It's a very, very political question, and the extent to which Donald Trump has political capital and leverage around that question is going to be much clearer in 2 weeks. But I wouldn't be surprised if the rhetoric until that point is about shutting down the border. And I wouldn't be surprised if on the Democratic side, the rhetoric is not about separating families. And so they're going to suggest that when these families that have, taken major personal risks arrive at the border, families are going to be separated, mothers aren't going to see their children. And that actually, over the summer, was a very, very effective message for the Democrats, and it chipped away at some of Donald Trump's support, even among independents.
As we stand here and sit here, it is 2 weeks from Election Day today. As we always talk, 24 hours can be a lifetime in politics, but this really seems to be that issue that national news is harping on, that both of the parties are harping on. Do you envision this really sort of taking up the oxygen moving forward towards November 6th?
Well, the Democrats, I think, hope not. They would like health care to be front and center. They know that they're able to garner much more support when they're talking about that. I think the Republicans would like to be talking about the economy. Republican candidates certainly would like to be talking about the economy more than immigration, but Donald Trump doesn't seem to care. And Donald Trump is conducting more than a dozen rallies between now and Election Day, and it matters in part what he says, not what the Republican candidates are trying to say and what their messages are. So my hunch is that because Trump feels so comfortable talking about immigration, because this has been part of his stump speech since he first announced and came down that escalator in Trump Tower, it is what we're going to hear about, and it is going to suck the oxygen, even though neither party wants to talk about it right now.
Well, we'll see what we have to talk about this time next week when we are just a week away from the elections. But as always, Jennifer, appreciate picking your brain as to what's taking place close to the Beltway to give us the report back here on Island. Jennifer Lawless down at the University of Virginia, thank you as always for Skyping in.
Of course.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center as we go from politics to education. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome in my next guest of no relation that we know of, Ann Nagel, the Assistant Dean of Continuing Education at Providence College. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Kate. It's a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate your coming in before a big open house taking place on November 7th, but really wanted you to come in and tell us. You've been at Providence College for over 2 decades.
Correct.
And talk with us on what you think viewers and readers should know about the continuing ed program, and if folks are thinking about that going back to school idea in their head, how to sort of take those next steps.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So Providence College is really well known in the area as well as regionally and nationally for the undergrad day program, the basketball team, and all the things that make PC a great school. However, we've got this incredible School of Continuing Education, which is basically our evening college, online and weekend college for adult learners. It's a well-kept secret, despite our efforts to not make it a well-kept secret. We have about 500 students at any given time, but we are basically a bachelor's degree completion program for working adults in the area. So all of our courses are at night, Saturday mornings, online, or hybrid, meaning partly online and partly on campus. We have 7 or 8 different bachelor's programs as well as skill building certificate programs, and we're quite affordable at $1,080 for a 3-credit class.
So you talk about the myriad of ways that folks can, again, get that continuing ed towards that bachelor. Now, you've been there for a couple of decades. How much has the online component really become a big piece of this puzzle as folks are, again, looking to go back to school and complete that degree?
Sure. Online is a wonderful option. It's not for everybody and it's not for every class. For example, at Continuing Ed at PC, we offer probably 10 to 20 online classes a semester in a variety of different subject areas. So it's always an option for students. We don't offer complete degree programs online. There are some schools that do. We find that most of our adult learners really prefer a hybrid format where they're coming to campus for some classes and doing the rest online. It's incredibly convenient and a great way to sort of mix and match formats.
Now, when we talk with college recruiters, we know folks trying to get folks in for the undergrad. They're at the high schools trying to get people to come on in. Where are you around, as you said, getting this word out, really reaching out into the community to let folks know what PC has to offer?
Sure, it's a great question. We do a lot of recruiting at community colleges, particularly CCRI here in Rhode Island, as well as Bristol Community College in Fall River. So we talk to students who are about to complete an associate's degree. We have a special articulation agreement with CCRI called the GATA, which is the Guaranteed Admission and Tuition Agreement, in which CCRI students can apply to us as early as within their first 30 credits of school and then stay at CCRI to graduate with an associate's degree. Once they do that with a 3.0, which is a B, grade point average or higher, they can come over to us to complete their bachelor's at a 33% tuition discount. So they end up paying about $740 a class and have up to 5 years to get that bachelor's degree. As long as they maintain the 3.0, they get that discounted tuition.
And so how many of these CCRI students do you find? Has the number fluctuated, or is it a significant portion of your continuing education students?
It's a pretty good portion. It's a great question. I don't know hard numbers, but it's a good number of our students. But we also get students from the local area who've been to other community colleges, other 4-year schools, and had to leave either for work or illness, or they had children and decided to start to raise their family. So they come from a host of backgrounds, veterans, out of the military, student veterans. So we work with adult learners literally from 20 to 80 years old and from all different kinds of backgrounds and circumstances.
So November 7th, there's going to be a big open house information session. So tell folks a little bit, if they're watching right now, and
sure,
maybe this is flicked a switch about continuing ed, what can they expect? And we'll provide links following after the fact. But what can folks expect on November 7th?
Absolutely. So on November 7th, which is a Wednesday, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. over at PC in Harkins Hall, our main building, we'll be offering what we're calling a one-stop workshop for success. It's an information session, but during the time, 5:30 to 7 p.m., students will be able to apply right online using our simple online application. We'll be waiving the application fee. They'll be able to talk with our academic advisors as well as a financial aid counselor to figure out how to pay for going back to school. We'll be able to look at transcripts from other schools to evaluate transfer credit, and it's going to be a terrific opportunity to learn more about how to go to school, what to think about, how to pay for it, and why particularly at Providence College School of Continuing Education.
Now, when folks look to start with the School of Continuing Ed, is it again that traditional school year construct? Is it a fall start, or can they start in the spring, start in the summer? What is that kind of, from acceptance to start, what's that time frame look like?
Sure, another great question. So we offer classes in the fall, spring, and summer, so 3 main semesters, if you will. Students can apply and start taking courses in any one of those 3 semesters. Students can also take courses as a non-degree student. Just come in, check us out, take a class. You don't have to matriculate, which is a fancy word for apply and enroll. You can take just a class and see how that fits with your lifestyle and your schedule. We also accept students who are applying for financial aid using the FAFSA form, the Federal Financial Aid Form, which a lot of people are familiar with from their own children or even themselves. Sometimes that requires a little bit of a head start to complete to get aid in time, but we're pretty much rolling admissions, so anytime students can apply or register for a class.
And so let's talk about that, not having to, as you said, matriculate. Do you get a lot of those students who either want to take a class or two, maybe the older student who just is very interested in a subject area? What's that student look like?
Absolutely. We call some of those students the culture vultures. So there are people that come in and just take a class in art or in a language because they want to, and we welcome them. They are definitely in the minority of our students. Most of our students are in a degree program or about to matriculate into one, taking 3, 4, 5 classes and decided this is what they want to do. But again, we have a wide diversity of students from right out of high school to a retired dentist in his 90s who's still taking classes with us. So we run the gamut.
So you've been at PC for a couple of decades now, heading up the continuing ed program. What do you envision the program looking like moving forward? I'm sure you're constantly tweaking it for those students, but as we move past and look into the coming years.
Sure. One correction, I'm not in charge of the School of Continuing Education. I'm the number 2 person.
Assistant Dean Nagel, yes.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that. Madeline Metzler is our Associate Dean and our Acting Dean at the moment for our School of Continuing Education. I think that we're looking at lots of different options because Providence College is a Catholic liberal arts school. I don't see that will dramatically change into, a completely online college, etc. But we're going to continue to add elements that we know people are looking for. Some of our programs need to be more workforce oriented. Speaking of which, we have a brand new Bachelor of Arts degree coming in January of 2019 in healthcare administration. We're very excited about this. We've been meeting with local hospitals and doctors' offices and medical groups to let people know that some of their folks may be interested who don't yet have a bachelor's in that particular degree. So always looking at what's going on in the workforce, adding more online classes, and being as convenient as we can for adult learners.
Well, you talk about that healthcare bachelor's, as you said, nothing more workplace appropriate with the healthcare industry right now. But I appreciate your coming in. Is there anything that we have not touched upon with the continuing education at Providence College that you think folks should know?
One thing I would say that we didn't touch upon is we happen to have a very strong reputation for individual academic advising. Coming back to school is not easy. There are probably 100 reasons not to return for every reason to return. However, it is so worth it, so worthwhile in terms of increased income, lower chances of ever being unemployed. And we are receiving high marks year after year on student satisfaction surveys for the quality of our academic advising. So don't hesitate. We work with you one-on-one. Come to the information session on November 7th. Check out campus, talk with us, and we think it'll be one of the best decisions you've ever made.
Okay, well, Ann Nagel, again, probably distantly related.
I think so. There's got to be a connection.
We were trying to figure it out there. The Assistant Dean for Continuing Ed at Providence College. I appreciate your taking the time to come in here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kate. I enjoyed it very much.
Don't go anywhere. We've talked politics. We've talked education. Now we're going to talk playing for a cure in the fight against ALS. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What, Dave? I heard that.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Would like to thank Jennifer Lawless and Nagel, and now a couple of guests playing for a cure. This is the event this weekend, the hockey extravaganza for Artie Saran, the fight against ALS. Andy Calcione and Howie Rosenblatt, thank you for coming in today.
No, my pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Again, the third now annual Play for a Cure event taking place at Schneider Arena this coming Saturday. This is an afternoon-long event that really brings out folks in the community, both to support Artie and to support the fight against ALS.
Yes, it does. We started it about 3 years ago. Artie's a friend of mine. We grew up with him. He played pro hockey. He played at LaSalle, actually. He played for the Saints, which is a local youth organization. And then, unfortunately, about 3 years ago, I heard he had ALS, which is, if anyone knows, it's a devastating disease. So we decided to do something for him. We started a hockey game, and I got my friend Howie here involved because he played pro hockey for 10 years. He's got a lot of connections, and without Howie, the game wouldn't have taken off, really. So, I mean, Howie can tell you who's playing and all that good stuff. Yeah,
give us the roster. I mean, the hockey community really comes together for this event.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Once Andy got in contact with me about Artie's situation, right off the bat, the hockey community is so tight. We always there to help each other out. So I was very happy to get involved. And this year's event is going to be one of our biggest. We've got Reggie Lemlin from the Boston Bruins, who's a Hall of Fame goaltender. He's going to be one of the honorary captains, as well as NHL career David Shaw, who also played for the Bruins. He'll be there as an honorary captain. And really happy to have Paul Stewart, who was a former NHL tough guy and became an NHL referee who's in the Hall of Fame. So we're really excited about the people we have.
And it's a day-long event, so there's great hockey with great hockey players, but this is a family-friendly event. There's youth activities as well.
Yes, we've got 4 youth teams that are going to play. The Warwick Wave is playing, the Rhode Island Vikings, and 2 youth Rhode Island Saints teams are going to play. So parents will be there, kids will be there. There'll be food. There'll be something for everyone. There's a Chuck-a-Puck. I'm not exactly sure. What's the price? Do you know the price for the Chuck-a-Puck?
The Hill and Harbor Chuck-a-Puck. I believe we're doing the 2 Bruins tickets.
So there'll be 2 tickets to a Bruins game for that. There's some great prizes. We got a Mario Lemieux autographed jersey, and there's another Sidney Crosby puck that we've got autographed, and plus Artie will be there. And the big thing is for this day is just get people there for Artie. For you can see people right now. He's battling and he's in a wheelchair and things are tough. But he's going to be at the game. He'll be there. His family will be there. So it'll be a fun day.
It means so much for folks to turn out for the event. And there's a couple other supporters around the corner. We'd like to thank Dave Piolo and Wolf Kennedy. Can you come give us a wave, Wolf?
The Wolf.
Wolf, where'd you go? Give everybody, give a wave.
Great event. Thanks, Kate.
Okay.
I'm out.
Thanks, Wolf. Okay, so you've got this great lineup of hockey players. How much trash talking is there on the ice during this game?
We're trying to build it up, right? I see what you're doing. I like where you're going with that.
Howie,
we've got some enforcers. We do have some enforcers that'll be at the game. Doug Smith, who was the inspiration of Goon. Billy Tibbetts, who's been known to be a tough player, played in the NHL as well, and Andy Calcione, really tough kid.
I'm actually a lot taller than this.
I'm up there to score goals.
They have heels on.
Who's the dirtiest player?
That would be Tibbs.
No, nobody's dirty. It's all within the game.
It's all funny games. I mean, last year Tibbs was trying to pick up one of our bench coaches who was a female.
Literally, pick her up.
No, literally, we were in the face-off circle, and he's asking me if that was my date because she was hot, and if he would mind if he asked her out. And I'm like, no, you have at it.
It's a fun, family-friendly day. And, of course, it must be so fun to watch the game when it's being played for the families and the siblings and kids who are in the stands watching.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, again, we get a bunch of former pros out there. We also have a few guys that through ticket sales or donations or sponsorships were able to so-called buy themselves into the game.
Onto the team. Okay.
And we try to make it a fun spiritual game as far as, excitement for the people that are there. But, as far as the people that are coming, I think they'll be very happy with the game that they see. And I know one thing that we're doing this year to get people in there is the kids. Kids who come with their youth hockey jerseys on get free admission.
Okay, kids get in free, and so there's the youth games, there's the big game, and then as you talk about some raffle items, what happens after the game's played?
after the game,
Yeah, don't let me answer that.
no. Well,
I'm not sure you should.
Howie has his own Crown Royal station after the game, but all the youth kids playing in the game, they have a lanyard, and they come up where all the pros are gathered, and there's food and alcohol that the kids aren't allowed to drink. Again, Howie has his own station.
Are we sponsored by Crown Royal?
We should be,
now.
as much as we drink it. But so the parents of the kids come up, and everybody who was at the game at some point when we end up, they get autographs from the players. They get to speak to the guys like Brian Berard. He usually sticks around. He was NHL Rookie of the Year. Mark Eaton won a Stanley Cup with the Penguins. He'll be playing. So they talk to everybody. And last year we had the Hanson brothers. Unfortunately they're not coming back this year. They couldn't make it. But plus Artie will be there. And if it's nice to get to talk to Artie, see him, his family's there. His son Artie Jr. drops the puck. Although last year he didn't want to let go of the puck, so that was he took the puck home with him. So it was a little bit mad. But
maybe he'll drop it this year. I mean, really, the hockey community is coming together for such a great cause. You've got the jerseys on.
Yeah.
But this is an event that's planned year round. I mean, this is just not something that happens.
Isn't something we just throw together.
No, this is a big undertaking.
It is. It was when I started it. It was just me, and like I said, then Howie got involved, and then Wolf came on board, and he helped us out a lot. Dave Paolo and G Media really saved us last year because we had the jumbotron working, and so Dave and G Media got involved with that, and there's a lot of people, not just us, but Greg Briner,
his staff over at Mega.
Yeah, he does all the programs, the posters, the ticket printing. He does all of that, and plus the guys like Howie mentioned earlier. The guys, they raise money to play in the game. There's 10 of those guys. They're raising some pretty good money for Artie, and it's just a lot of fun. But like you said, everybody comes together.
Everyone comes together. Again, it's this coming Saturday. I believe starts at 11 a.m.
No, the puck drops at 1 o'clock.
The youth games are earlier.
The youth games are earlier. Yep.
If you got a family and you're coming with, so 2:30, but the game is at 1, and then the after game fun is after.
That starts during the game. I'm sure that water bottle doesn't usually have water in it, but.
And of course, there's ways we're going to provide links too for folks who might not be able to make it to support the event as well.
Correct. Yeah, we've got was Artie Saran's game on Facebook. And then on Eventbrite, it's Artie Saran's game, ArtieSaransGame.com. They can buy tickets or donate money that way.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. Appreciate
Thank
Wolf
you.
Kennedy back there, Dave Paolo, and all the folks who put on now the 3rd annual Play for a Cure event taking place at Schneider Arena this coming Saturday, October 27th. The big game is at 1 p.m. We'll be sure to have links up to that. So Andy and Howie, thank you so much for taking the time to come in. I appreciate it. Okay, I'll let you go around the corner, and we'll be right back here to wrap up in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for this 4 o'clock show on a Tuesday afternoon. We were here earlier this morning with Jason Fain, developer who was here in Providence at the Ordinance Committee meeting last night for the Providence City Council to talk about the latest in his effort to build a tower on 195. Of course, Tuesday afternoons, we check in with Jennifer Lawless at the University of Virginia, political science professor there, get her take on what's taking place nationally and internationally. got a little local with Ann Nagel, the Assistant Dean of Continuing Education at Providence College, to talk about their program and their upcoming open house on November 7th. We'll provide links to that as well. And finally, would like to thank everyone involved with the Play for a Cure event taking place this Saturday at Schneider Arena. The big game's at 1 o'clock. Would like to thank Howie Rosenblatt and Andy Calcione for coming in to give us a little scoop as to who will be playing, what the day looks like, some of the great prizes that are available, and of course the great hockey that's going to be played for Artie Saran, and again the fight against ALS. We'll be back here in studio tomorrow in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, where I'll be kicking off at 3 p.m. and Laura Afonso will be here at 4. In the meantime, tune in to GoLocalProv.com and catch us on Facebook. And of course, catch game results tonight with Game 1 of the World Series. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow downtown. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.